Hey cousins, happy Thursday. So today I want to check out the Dr. Daff show. If you have not seen Dr. Daff, Dr. Michelle Daff, she has been hosting these Jubilee middle ground style debates where people are able to sit down and have some discourse and hopefully find some actual middle ground. As someone that has been on I believe four, maybe five different Jubilee episodes, I can tell you that process gets very, very ghetto. So I'm interested to see if it's going to be different with the Dr. Daff show, especially because the first Jubilee episode I did was Black conservatives versus white liberals. And today I'm going to be watching Black conservative women debate white liberal women, and particularly the section about hate speech. So y'all know the vibes. Be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Welcome to Respectfully. Okay, not me hitting Jubilee with a stray, but I'll do another Jubilee episode again. It's just the 30v30 I did last year was so bad. I have never been more stressed out during a filming process. You have 30 Republicans, 30 Democrats just fighting for their lives. And the worst part, the part that you don't really get to see as much in that episode, is you had to nominate someone from your own side. So you would see the right fighting each other, the left fighting each other, and then we would both nominate our fighter, and then everybody would be mad at the fighter that went to the middle if they didn't do a good enough job. It was the most chaotic 8 hours of my life, and I really should invoice them right now because I want some coin for what I had to go through that day. So let's see, Dr. Daff show. Let's see what this episode is all about.
Hate speech should be protected under the First Amendment.
Absolutely.
Okay, we have no dissent here.
Hold on. I'm already gagged. Because if this were Jubilee, ain't no way all the white liberals would have agreed that hate speech is under the First Amendment. Wow. I mean, I guess that's kind of what happens when you have some progressive hens, some liberal hens, some women of a particular age who have been around the block a few times. No shade, all respect. But I guess that's the difference between like grown folk liberals, like real, they're probably like classical liberals is like already my guess, rather than these like Gen Z progressives that you see that are trying to like, you know, ban the use of gender. So I'm already impressed. This already seems better than anything I've seen on Jubilee in a while. Well, at least since I was on there last. Let's keep going.
All speech should be protected under the First Amendment.
Period.
So why are they pulling people off the air? Because they express opinions that the government doesn't like.
Mm-hmm. I think that's how you're shaping the narrative, and that's what's wrong. Wow. See, this is what the legacy media is a tool of the establishment and the globalists and the Democratic Party, and they always shape the narrative. I mean, you laugh, but I think it's true. Let me prove it. They always shape the narrative, because I watch Washington Journal every morning, and they shape that same question.
I'm just living because I didn't know this was going to be all aunties. This is all auntie. Because my auntie is about to cook. She was waiting for somebody to bring up Jimmy Kimmel. Oh, she was waiting. She was born for this. You better work, auntie. Let's keep going.
They shape the narrative a certain way where people answer a certain way, right? The Democratic Party is a tool of, you know, in the 60s, the Democratic Party was against the establishment. Now they're for the establishment.
Oh, no, we're not. But
yes, they are. I mean, they are for the establishment.
What do you mean by that? So
the establishment is what, first of all, to think that these establishment politicians have the interest of the American people and America is absolutely not true. None of the politicians have the interest of America and Americans. That's why we voted for Trump, a non-establishment politician. These politicians have been taking advantage of the American people, milking us dry for decades, probably since World War II, after World War II, if you read all the information that's out on this stuff. Actually, in 1917, when Woodrow Wilson made experts the administrative state, the fourth estate, violating the Constitution, that's when all the problems started with the administrative state and all this stuff. Yeah. Okay, so that they shaped that narrative. It's not about free speech. What that was about, that Jimmy Kimmel has had low ratings for a long time, for years.
Pause. I need her to bring this point on home because she's cooking. I agree with what she's saying, but girl, I'm gonna need you to get back on topic.
60% of his audience, you know, because conservatives listen to late night television. We used to listen to Johnny Carson. It was not political. 60% of his audience had disappeared, and the affiliates in the Midwest had
Why
gone
are her
away from
glasses
Jimmy
hanging
Kimmel.
at the bottom of her
right?
blouse?
So he was
No,
losing.
I think we need to just keep it really simple. I think what it boils down to is one, litigious lack of responsibility. People don't want to be sued, and the media, left and right, forward or backwards, it's like a chessboard, and they're using it to pit us against each other. They will present this, they'll present that, this side says this side says that, and we're constantly pitting each other. I think that the speech should be protected, and when you're at that level of a Jimmy Kimmel, people don't want to be sued, somebody doesn't want to like something, they got low ratings. It's all a part of the game.
It is a game, but I may have a very unique perspective here because I am a far left-wing liberal who worked for Fox for over 20 years. And first of all, with that perspective in mind, we were talking earlier about inclusion, and hate speech is divisive. What I am seeing now is that the administration is making divisiveness, name-calling, them and us, acceptable. You're right, back in the 60s, we were people, we were individuals. We are now being separated more into groups than at any time since before World War II.
But we can't blame that on one person. We all have a responsibility. See, freedom of speech does not mean...
Pause real quick. Interesting that she's a far left liberal but worked for Fox for 20 years. I feel like it's rare that I see people go more blue. I guarantee you it was like her kids or her grandkids like blue pilled her, like were like, read a book, mom, or something like that, and guilt tripped her. But yeah, when it comes to the Jimmy Kimmel stuff, what he said was absolutely disgusting, and I feel like the network was probably ready for any reason to take that man off the air because he was just drowning in his ratings. All tea, all shade, and all offense there. But that being said, I did think it was odd that there was such establishment pressure on the whatever organization was overseeing the whole thing with Jimmy Kimmel. It's like, I haven't looked super deep into it. I just know I don't care. I'm just disgusted by Jimmy. I didn't know people even... I don't know anybody that still actively watches Jimmy Kimmel. Not a single person, left or right. So I don't really know if anybody's checking for him like that in the first place. But yeah, I agree. The government should not be involved in taking certain shows off air. If anything, we should be taking the shows off air that are like, you know, romanticizing and glorifying mutilating children, like the stuff that we see over on Netflix. But as far as like what comedians say, I feel like comedy should be one of the few places that is a free-for-all, but there's just a level of distastefulness that I feel like there should be accountability for. Like, don't get up there and start saying the vile things that someone like Jimmy Kimmel was saying, or, you know, I believe it was Trevor Noah. It might have been someone else, but I think it was Trevor Noah that recently tried to say that it's inherently hilarious that Charlie Kirk was defending gun ownership, but then got murdered by a gun. It's like, how gross and disgusting can you actually be? And it's like, I don't know why people... I even argued with someone in the comment section today because they were like, if Charlie Kirk survived, they were saying that he would have changed his perspective on gun ownership. It's like, no. He stood by the principles of our Constitution. His values were about protecting gun ownership because in the Constitution, it's so that we cannot be taken over by some kind of tyrannical government. It has nothing to do with a criminal going and committing murder. And if somebody is planning to commit murder, they're going to do it with or without a gun. So it's like, that's just nonsense to me. But let's keep going.
Lack of responsibility.
Agreed.
There is a consequence.
Oh,
But the
sorry.
Democratic
And pause
Party-
on. I gotta drag her. Miss Old White Liberal Lady. Let me not name call her. She just said that people need to stop name calling. She's a nice lady of a particular age, and she's here for a nuanced discussion. So that's what we'll do as well. But wench, girl, you're delusional. If you think that the right is the reason why we have so much tribalism and division in politics today, then you are absolutely unserious and, dare I say, dishonest, because it has been the intolerant left that has made it to where you are not allowed in certain spaces, you are outcast, and all these different things. It might have been different in her day. It might have been different in the early 2000s, but I would say from at least 2018, I would say 2016 on, and it has only gotten worse until it got a little better. It has very much been the Republicans and the conservatives. It has been the right wing that is outcast from being in certain places, that loses their brand deals. If you voted for Kamala Harris, you weren't afraid to go out and say that. But if you voted for Donald Trump, you were. There's a reason for that. Objectively speaking, getting out, you don't get outed as a Kamala supporter, but you get outed as a MAGA supporter. That means inherently that it is the left that is being tribal and that is being intolerant. So she's capping. Also, why do they have 3 black queens versus 4 white queens? It's imbalanced. I don't like the lack of balance. Black women always having to work harder. Shout out to black women. Let's keep going.
They started this identity politics. They put us all in boxes. The black person, the Hispanic, even you said black and brown people. Why would you lump together black and brown people? The gays, every group, Asians, Hispanics, they did that in the media. They put us all in boxes as opposed to we're Americans. We're all Americans and we should be for America.
We are.
No, you're not.
Oh, we definitely are.
We are.
In different ways. Black America, and I don't know why you don't realize that. How can you not know that?
Well, I think it goes back to values, like you were saying. It's like from a certain perspective, we can say this is a win and you can say this is a loss because we may have different ideas of what values are important to us. And that's kind of like what we were saying earlier. And I feel like piggybacking a little bit on what you were saying with Jimmy Kimmel, it wasn't just that they didn't like his speech, it was about him blaming MAGA and saying that the shooter was from MAGA, and it was not correct information, and that was part of it. Let me finish. But what I'm saying is also with media, I thank God for the internet, because it used to be we had to watch TV to know what's going on. And so nowadays we have at our fingertips, we can be like, what just happened? Who said what? And that's why, like for me, I'm very adamant, and I'm sorry for being so emotional about it, because like today I already feel heavy with the whole memorial thing. However anybody feels about it, it's a guy, he had precious life. So anyways, I feel like nowadays, I feel like for us, like me and my husband, we're talking online and people are like, you shouldn't like him and you shouldn't be this and because this, and I'm just like, if people would really just do their research and not look at clips and not just look at a quote. I think all of us should do that whenever you see any story. And I feel like with mainstream media a lot, you see these clips. And I feel like everyone should take the responsibility of, why do you think that way? What did you really hear? What is the full story? So I don't think the onus should be on me. I gotta prove, and I'm like an apologist for Charlie Kirk. That's not my role. My role is, how about you guys find the truth? I want people to go and look.
We have found the truth.
You've looked at
our
ours.
truth.
No, I'm saying as far as, for example, wait. For example, just with the Charlie Kirk stuff, have you watched hours and hours of his conversations, debates, Q&As? I have. And so it's not up to me. It's not a research paper on everything Charlie Kirk said. It's like, you could go look. That's the beauty of the internet. You could literally go look. So I don't have to give a list of 5 things. You can go yourself. But also, like she said, my 5 things are not going to be as valuable as your 5 things, and you might see my 5 things as a negative thing. So go ahead.
Now, you do realize that when you are on the internet, the algorithms are tracking, and they will feed you exactly what you are looking for, not
if I'm literally searching and trying to find those sites.
That argument doesn't hold, because
maybe it's just me. My algorithm shows me the opposite of what I want to see. And I will say, in fairness, maybe it's because I'm always reacting to content, doing what I do. But, oh my goodness. When people are like, oh, what's on your Explore page? Everything I hate. My Explore page is so bad. It's why I have no peace. I don't have a moment to rest. And it's to the point I'm lucky that I'm not one of the people in politics that doesn't have, a real social life and a friend group and, a circle, a network of people that are outside of my industry. Because oh my goodness, if I was only around people that are as deeply into politics as I am, I would probably think that the world is on fire 24/7, because there's so much craziness going on in the world, and I had to physically get myself outside and touch grass every time I scroll on the internet. So maybe she's lucky enough to have an algorithm that she has built brick by brick, but my algorithm is a hot mess.
When we're looking at hate speech, just because we can doesn't mean we should. We should all have a responsibility for what we say. Agreed. Just because I think your outfit is pretty and she thinks it's crazy doesn't give her the right to say, well, I think, no. Let me think about someone else first. And so freedom of speech does not, hate speech should be protected. But with that speech, you have to consider that, how might this affect someone?
They've already said that it's justifiable.
Yeah, you know, what I'll say about hate speech, I think the entire premise, because a lot of conservatives will say there's no such thing as hate speech. There is. If I'm being hateful towards someone and I'm speaking on it, that's hate speech. But what I don't think is, I don't think that there necessarily should be this like media crackdown on it all the time. You know, I've always said the thing that matters is violent speech. If you have violent speech, then I think that you should have to bear certain consequences for that. You should be able to speak freely as long as you are not defaming, calling for violence, or, you know, maybe you should chill out on calling people Nazis. Maybe that's part of why people are getting shot at all the time. But, you know, again, I don't think that part should be illegal unless you're actually directly calling or leading to harm, objectively.
Affirmative action and DEI are necessary to ensure equality of opportunity.
First of all, that prompt is inherently racist. If you think that in order to have equality and equal opportunity, we need DEI and affirmative action, then you really just underestimate the power and the excellence of people of color. Like, it's just so offensive. And I know white women benefit from affirmative action too, but y'all know who it's for. Don't play with me. Let's keep going.
And I would really like to speak to that one. Oh. There was a point where affirmative action was basically more women for men. In one of my areas where I worked, they looked around and realized they were all white men. Well, we have to get some diversity down here. And the first most desirable minority, Mr. Gutierrez, took one look around and said, I'm not working in this hellhole. They hired the second most desirable minority. Absolutely sure I physically couldn't do the job. Not only did I do the job, I became the head of the department, got everybody's jobs upgraded, and they still talk about the good old days. That opportunity was not open to me until somebody exercised affirmative action.
Pause. But she's talking about 1,000 years ago. No shade. I need to stop reading on this lady because she's such a nice lady. I'm sure she's lovely, but her era, affirmative action was necessary at a certain point. I do agree with that. I do agree that at a certain point it made sense because there was discrimination against women, against even white women, against people of color. I understand why we had it in the beginning, but we are talking about today. Today, you do not need affirmative action, and it's so offensive to even think or insinuate otherwise. But let's keep going as she reminisces on the freaking 1940s.
It was affirmative to get the most qualified person in the door
60s.
When the door had been shut and locked. I think that's how we see affirmative action. It opens the doors that had been locked.
For women. And that's the whole point of the Civil Rights Act.
Yeah, agreed.
Let me say this. The 14th Amendment has been bastardized by the liberal Supreme Court justices because the 14th Amendment and the Civil Rights Act was meant for Black Americans. And yet who benefits from affirmative action?
Ooh.
White women. You see, they've twisted and bastardized everything. And that's why Al Sharpton is still talking about DEI, like we just didn't fail with affirmative action. Black Americans didn't benefit with affirmative action. White women did. And then that's why you see all these white women, blonde, beautiful white women, right? But they're all white women on TV now doing the news.
Mr. Gutierrez was not a white woman.
But I'm just saying it's disproportionate.
Yeah, I disagree with
Hold
that.
on. This black queen, she said, I'm talking about you, and you, and you. Oh, good. She really just gave all of them their lashings. She's like, okay, you want to go there and make affirmative action about you? Let's talk about it. She's been waiting for that conversation. She basically just said that, yeah, you're continuing to be racist because you're taking my spot. They made a whole law, a whole system of laws, a whole amendment for me and my people. And here come these white liberal women taking up our nachos. I know that's right. Let's keep going.
I don't know if anybody remembers Phil Donahue.
Yes.
Ooh. Okay. Phil Donahue did an episode on this when it first came out. I don't know why I still remember that, but I do. And it was a panel similar to this that disagreed and agreed with affirmative action. I do believe that there are times that it can be beneficial, but it could also be used against. So imagine you're a white boss that needs to hire this quota because now you got to do it, and you just don't want those N-words in your company because you don't believe that whatever, and it happens. So what you do is you hire the least qualified black person to meet the quota, to say we did it, and they don't represent well. And what people don't understand, or what white America doesn't understand, is that even though you may not be like that, your counterparts, some of your counterparts are. So they are. So they make it bad for others, and we don't, because we don't talk, we don't hear it. So at what point do black Americans choose to get an education, choose to work hard, and choose to position themselves in those places? In other words, if we want to look at the numbers, if we're not going to school and we're not, excelling in these jobs that would be, let's say, executive jobs, then how can you say we're marginalized if we're not even competing at the same numbers? The pool is not even there. So there has to be a responsibility on the black American side to do the same thing.
Pause. Yeah, I agree with that 100%, because one of the things I've said is that if people want to continue the premise of affirmative action, what I would appreciate to see is if there was just more efforts made to take affirmative action in like the middle school era of people's lives. Because by the time you get to high school, by the time you get to college especially, if you are a black child or a black teenager, you already pretty much have established at that point in your life whether or not you want to go and start working towards being successful or not. And yes, it happens for certain people later, it happens for certain people earlier. But I feel like if we started pinpointing more on the middle school era of black youth or any ethnicity group that's applicable to affirmative action, I feel like that would be much more beneficial. Because right now what's happening is you continue to have people, it's the mismatch theory. You have people that are put into positions or into universities that they're not qualified for, and then they fail. And then once they fail, they look like they represent the entire demographic. When there are a lot of qualified people that are out there, or a lot of people who have the work ethic to become qualified, they just need the resources to get there. So yeah, I think we need to focus much more on making sure that when people are coming to the table, they're prepared for what's at the table, rather than just getting them a seat that they don't know what to do with it. So she cooked.
White Americans are doing to get those jobs. Now, if we're getting there and we have 30 blacks and you have, they say 30 whites, and then you don't pick, then there's a problem. But it should not be. All black Americans that disagree with affirmative action and DEI, the only thing they're saying is, don't hire me because of my color. We only want you to hire us because we're qualified.
We're all agreed with that.
So you hearken back to Phil Donahue, and I'm going to hearken back to Oprah. So once in a conversation about race, I heard Oprah say that if you are a black person, every problem is about race. And if you are a white person, it's never about race. And the truth is somewhere in the middle. I think that when we are looking, what you all are looking at is the corporate end of DEI and affirmative action. The real crux of DEI is equity and equality. That means you would like for people to be on an even playing field when it comes to hiring.
First of all, equity and equality are literally not the same thing. Equity and equality are like the polar opposites of each other. So she thought she ate that, but she tried to include something that has nothing to do with the statement of DEI. When we're talking about equality, we're talking about everybody is on an equal playing field, meaning that you are going and you're competing, and whatever the circumstances are, you get through it. Life isn't fair, but you get it handled. Okay, that's what equality is all about. It's an actual real world representation of what life is like when you don't have these outside forces trying to hold certain people down in order to put other people up. Otherwise, you have these unfair subsidies and these people that are jumping in to make the whole situation disproportionate in a way that is not at all compatible with the reality. So no, DEI, you can't just interchange equity and equality. It just doesn't work that way. And when it comes to inclusion, you will be included when you have earned inclusion. Okay? Every space, you might be meant for every space, but not every space is meant for you, is what it really comes down to. It is what it is.
Family goes to a public school in a lower income area where I cannot attract good teachers. I do not have funding for my school's extra activities.
That's why we need school choice.
How am I ever going to compete on an equal footing? It starts
Before
way
there was
long
ever
before you
civil
ever
rights.
get
And
to
again,
an
that's
HBC,
socioeconomic. That's not
to be able
racial.
to have an equal opportunity.
Before, this is what got me. When they were hanging black folks from trees, we still learned to read.
Ooh.
When they were murdering us just for looking at a white woman down the street, we still learned how to read and do math. Before there was ever the civil rights movement, in Walter E. Williams' documentary, you can find it on YouTube, Black people owned businesses. They went to school. They were educated. So if we could do that then, when we didn't have civil rights, why do we need it now?
See, I want to end on that note because I really like what she had to say there. When Black people were at our worst when it came to adversity, we were still overcoming. We had thriving Black communities, Black businesses, you had Black Wall Street, you had all these different things that were coming up and rising in the Black community when we were dealing with oppression, when we were dealing with actual segregation. But this coddle culture that we have, if anything, has pushed Black people in a negative capacity. And I really just don't like it that our community is viewed as weak. I feel like they have continuously, systemically disempowered us to a point where we have become weak, to where we almost have become dependent on, or not all of us, obviously, but a lot of people have become dependent on the handouts, the excuses, and the narratives that white liberals really like to put on us. But when we really tap into what makes the Black community what it is at its core and what it is at its foundation, it's inherently conservative. It's about hard work. It's about following God. It's about, what you can do in the face of adversity and how you continue to overcome. That's the Black American story that I will tell until my last breath. So it really just goes to show the whole mindset change here. I think that everybody here is in really good faith. I actually think that these white liberal women they seem to me to be true liberal women. The white liberals that you often see in Gen Z or on Jubilee or on these other networks, they're like ultra progressives and leftists, which goes to show that there is a difference between liberals and leftists. A lot of liberals actually do have some rationality to their thoughts. I just think they're more emotional and they're overly sensitive, and they're empathetic to the point that they're empathetic to the point that it's at fault because it makes them blinded to reality, and it makes them want other people to be blind to reality. If you guys enjoyed watching me react to some of Dr. Daff's content, just let me know in the comments and I will go through more of her content, because it's about time Jubilee gets a real competitor. I hope Vice starts doing debates again as well at some point, because they used to have some really good debates, but it's always good to have healthy discourse. And I really like that nobody was screaming, nobody was yelling, at least in these two sections that we watched here. Seems classy. Maybe we should have more women of a particular age come and do these debates. Thank you guys again. Be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe, and I will see you soon.